a planetary camera, cooled and with specific features to get the most out of solar and lunar astrophotography. This is the SVBony SC432M, a camera that might remind us of those dedicated to deep sky astrophotography, but in this case, it comes with very powerful features to make the most of our solar telescope or planetary setup. My name is Miguel Azorín, and I welcome you once again to Natural Portraits. I'm going to tell you more about this enigmatic planetary camera, and we'll see how it performs in real life. Before we begin, let me remind you that if you want to learn everything you need to take photos like these, you have the Planetary Astrophotography course from the Natural Portraits Academy at your disposal. A complete course from 0 to 100, which will allow you to learn everything you need to capture and process images of the Moon, the Sun, and the planets of the solar system, with the highest level of detail your equipment can achieve. In the description of this video and in the first comment, you'll find a link so you can take a look. The SVBony SC432M is a camera specifically designed for solar and planetary astrophotography. In fact, this silver color is specifically designed to reflect solar radiation so that all the camera's electronics stay as cool as possible. It is equipped with a monochrome CMOS sensor. Yes, monochrome. Sony IMX432 1.1 inches. And it offers us a resolution of 1608 x 1104 pixels, which is equivalent to 1.77 megapixels. But what really stands out about this camera is the size of its pixels, 9 microns. A size considerably larger than the classic 2.9 microns found in most planetary sensors, or even the 1.45 microns of the SVBony SC715C, which we already tested in another video. 9 microns is an enormous pixel size. And this, combined with a monochrome sensor, what does it mean? Well, it means incredible sensitivity in low-light conditions. This is not a camera designed for ultra-high planetary resolution. For that purpose, we would have the SC715C. This camera is intended for wide panoramas, such as, for example, full-disk solar photography or large lunar regions, or to be combined with long focal length that allow us to counteract the low resolution provided by the camera. And regarding this, about long focal lengths, there's another interesting point to add, because one of the main problems that long focal lengths present is the oversampling they produce in most astrophotography cameras. In this case, since the pixels are twice as large as those found in most cameras on the market, we will have, on one hand, greater sensitivity in the sensor, and on the other hand, better sampling at these focal lengths. So it's a type of sensor well worth considering if you want to practice deep sky astrophotography with equipment like Schmidt-Cassegrain or Maksutov-Cassegrain. I'm going to tell you about the most outstanding features of this camera. Global shutter. Most cameras use a rolling shutter. This means that the pixel rows of the sensor are read from top to bottom in sequence. And therefore, not all the pixels are read at the same time. This can cause distortions if there is movement, such as, for example, atmospheric turbulence in planetary astrophotography. The SC432M features a global shutter that allows all the pixels to be read at once. This in principle will minimize distortions and produce sharper images. High frame rate, with a rate of up to 120 frames per second. If you've ever done planetary astrophotography, you'll know that this parameter is perfect because it gives us many frames per second, and it minimizes atmospheric turbulence. Active cooling. As you can see, the camera features a fan system that reduces the sensor temperature by between 5 and 10 degrees Celsius, minimizing thermal noise and improving image quality during long exposures. We shouldn't confuse this with a cooling system because in reality it isn't one, as found in other brands on the market. In those, we do find an actual cooling system. But in this case, it's only a ventilation system, to ensure the camera operates as cool as possible, especially in solar photography. On the other hand, the SVBony model is also substantially more affordable than those from other brands on the market. HCG technology, or high conversion gain, is the balance point that optimizes the signal captured by the camera, minimizing red noise and, on the other hand, preventing saturation in the brightest areas of the image. In this camera, this point is at a gain level of 140, which is when this system is automatically activated. Compatibility and connectivity. The SC432M is compatible with Windows, Linux, and Mac systems, and easily integrates with astrophotography software such as SharkCab, FireCapture, or AstroDMX Capture. It will be especially useful to use software that allows us to activate and control the camera's cooling fan, such as SharkCab, for example. And on top of all this, the camera comes standard with a tilt correction plate. As I just mentioned, this is a camera that is also designed to be used with long focal lengths. And the issue of tilt when working with long focal lengths can become a problem. Therefore, with this integrated tilt correction plate, we can perfectly adjust the focal plane so that the entire image comes out as sharp as possible. And having reviewed all these features of this camera, as always, let's put it to the test. Well, here we are with this SC432M connected to the telescope. And as you can see, it's the middle of the night, even though I told you this is a high-performance camera for solar astrophotography. So why did I decide to test it at night? Well, first of all, because I don't have an H-alpha solar telescope, which I believe is where this camera can really shine. And secondly, because tonight we have a moon that's about 60% illuminated in its waxing phase. I think this can give us much more detail and structure to really analyze how this camera performs and the sharpness it can deliver. And if we go straight to the computer, as you can see, I already have the moon framed here. And the first thing that stands out is the magnification this camera gives us. It actually gives us very little magnification. Keep in mind that right now I have it at prime focus on a telescope with a primary focal length of 1250 millimeters, and as you can see, the moon is almost entirely visible. However, there are also other interesting details we can mention. And notice that what we're seeing looks like a photograph, but in reality it's not. It's a live image. In fact, if I focus and defocus, you can see how it's a live image, and look. The refresh rate it gives us. This camera is truly overwhelming. You can really notice those 120 frames per second. I'm going to adjust the exposure a bit more to avoid those blown out areas. And right now I'm working with a gain of 140, which is the gain level where the HCG system kicks in, and as you can see, it gives us a great amount of information in the shadow areas. But at the same time, it doesn't blow out the highlights, and just look at the highlight areas. We don't have anything blown out, and what's more, the shadow areas show a lot of detail. We have a great dynamic range, and as I said, this is due to the combination of very large pixels and this dynamic range optimization system that this camera features. As you can see right now, the camera is at 28.5 degrees Celsius. I have the cooling system turned off. Let's turn it on. There, now it's on. The target temperature would be 0 degrees, although I have to say that I've been running some tests at home and I haven't noticed any change in the current temperature the camera shows. So honestly, I don't know if this cooling system actually works or if it's just marketing. We'll see how it goes during this session. Although, well, I can see that for now it has dropped by a few tenths of a degree. Right now it's at 28.2 degrees. Yes, it looks like it's going down little by little. Let's see how far it gets. If we pay attention to the camera's resolution, let's zoom in on the image. Let's go to 400%. Alright, so here we have the Copernicus crater, but notice that everything looks pixelated. This is because, as I mentioned, we're working with very large pixels, which give us a low level of resolution in the image, but on the other hand, allow us to capture wide panoramas. As I mentioned, the entire sun fits within the frame, or in this case, the moon, which at 1250 millimeters of focal length almost fits completely. But if we want to achieve higher resolutions than what we're seeing here, we're going to have to use longer focal length, Barlow lenses, or telescopes with very high focal lengths, or we might even have to consider buying another camera with higher resolution, such as the SVBony SC432M, for example. Let's really check the level of resolution we can achieve with this camera. By the way, regarding the temperature, we can see it's already at 25.7 degrees. We've managed to lower the ambient temperature by 3 degrees. So it's not really a cooling system, but it will allow us to work with the sensor cooler than the ambient temperature. Now let's check the level of resolution we can achieve with a camera like this. And what I'm going to do is attach a Barlow lens to the telescope to see what kind of image we can capture. More or less, this is what we can achieve, in this case with a 5x Barlow lens that I just installed. That is, right now we're working at about 6,000 millimeters of focal length. As you can see, at this focal length, the level of turbulence is already much more pronounced. We can no longer see the details as sharply. But even so, for the focal length I'm working with, I think the details look pretty good. Let's move around a bit on the lunar surface. Look at that. What a level of detail we're getting. Even though, as I mentioned, the camera gives us rather low resolution with those large pixels. But when we work with equipment with a high primary focal length, or in this case, we push the equipment to a very high focal length and it can handle it, we can actually get really detailed images. Well, we've now seen how this SV works. SVBony SC432M, quite an enigmatic camera, It's unusual, not what we typically see for planetary astrophotography, but as you can see, it's a camera that fits well in certain niches. Solar astrophotography with hydrogen alpha telescopes mainly, or planetary astrophotography with telescopes that have long focal lengths. It can really offer us a lot thanks to its high sensitivity and those large 9-micron pixels. Additionally, the cooling system is an extra advantage, which will allow us to achieve excellent results. In fact, right now, it's at a temperature of 25.10 OC. We've managed to lower the ambient temperature by 4 OC, which is not bad at all. And with that, I say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again in the next Natural Portraits video. Goodbye!